Littlest hated snipers.
I hate snipers.
But one day he realized, after 3 members of his squad were killed by snipers, if he was one, he'd be in a lot better position to kill them.
Sniper! Sniper coming in! Sniper! Hey, that's sniper! Sniper! Down! Sniper's dead! Won't be a problem now! Kill the sniper!
Reginald here. I'm going to do a very quick build guide today. I'm going to try and truncate the usual in-depth explanation of things and just stick to what matters for this build. At this point, patch 13 was a long time ago. We all know how the talent tree works, so I'm going to make build guides from now on that are a lot shorter if I do them at all. I mostly want to focus on things that are different, and one of the things I have struggled with is making a marksman's focus build that was any fun. I haven't had a lot of luck with that in all of my attempts, unfortunately, because I rather like the idea of playing veteran with executioner's stance and marksman's focus. But it's not the movement that's making marksman's focus feel bad to me. It's actually executioner's stance that just doesn't seem to be very good for survivability. Veteran tends to get killed by surprise when he gets ambushed, since he has low capacity to regenerate toughness in an emergency. Though if you play well, it's not that big of a deal. And also, I built this because someone was saying online that you couldn't play veteran the way you used to play veteran, which was more of a standoffish kind of gunman and less of a sort of budget zealot that the right tree tends to favor. And I wanted to put that to the test. So I tried some builds, played around, and eventually found something that felt really good and does adequately. I'm not saying this build is fantastic, but if you're looking to try and play vet more in a long-range gunman kind of role, I think this build will satisfy what you're looking for. Now, I do want to clarify there are a few things in this build that most people won't like, and so I am aware of that, but you can tweak builds to your taste, right? So let's get right into this, shall we? Here is the build itself on screen. Key nodes that we're worrying about, of course, are smoke grenades. Infiltrate with low profile is critical here. And then on our way through, we are going to scoot over and grab marksman's focused, along with 2 subnodes, chink in their armor and camouflage. Okay, so let me explain what this build does and why it does it. The key thing I wanted to achieve here was a noticeable and pleasant impact on the actual ranged weapon that I've chosen. I've found that marksman focus on a lot of guns doesn't feel very impactful, but after some trial and error with various infantry las guns, which was kind of what I originally wanted, I eventually settled on trying out the Mark 7 Headhunter auto gun. And I am finding that with opening salvo and a few other perks that I have unarmored and carapace on this. Carapace was what I was stuck with in order to get surgical. I am able to get some really spicy headshot damage. I can show you what that looks like, and it should be on screen now, but what it feels like to play is you can sort of stand in the back and blast away at heads all game long, and I've found the Vraks generally to have an easier time getting reliable headshots, and salvo tends to reset just as your aim resets at a fairly high rate of fire, unlike the MG12 lasgun where salvo actually kind of blows. This build is designed for standoff gunplay work. Oh no, what is that sound? Oh no, it's me being wrong. Regrettably, while I was finishing cutting this video at about 2 a.m. yesterday evening, I realized that, as it happens, I hadn't actually bothered to test the breakpoints on the Vraks using Marksman's Focus. As it turns out, there are almost no interesting breakpoints that Marksman's Focus gives you on the Vraks that you don't get from the Vraks base. That's actually really disappointing, because what I am finding with Marksman's Focus continues to be true, which is that guns that don't really seem like Marksman's weapons are actually best suited to take advantage of it, like infantry auto guns and fast-firing weapons like the las pistol. It feels pretty strange when you have a gun that is supposed to be a marksman's weapon that doesn't benefit at all, actually, from marksman's focus. So I guess I will give you a new build real quick without that entire keystone that will play about the same, but with a few extra benefits, since apparently the keystone is not required to get any advantage at all in terms of breakpoints. The only one I found was Reapers die a little faster, and frankly, who cares? We now return to your previously scheduled programming. You're going to be sitting at the back of your team, generally speaking, and you're going to be sniping away at key enemies. You don't have enough ammo to shoot into hordes, and probably not at bruiser groups in most cases. So remember that you are looking to shoot at shooters, gunners, elites and specialists, and those kinds of things. In order to facilitate that, you'll be using Infiltrate to dump aggro anytime there's too much fire on you and regen your toughness. This allows you to dispense with the need to have Determined, which is suppression immunity. You don't need it because if anything's shooting at you too much, you just pop your Infiltrate, become invisible, and tell them to go away for the next 10 seconds after you leave stealth. This will give you plenty of time to pick off all those pesky gunners. If you are still having difficulty, this is actually where your smoke grenades go. Smoke grenades are most useful in this build by chucking them at your feet and walking forwards a little bit. You have an icon in your tray on the bottom that will tell you when you are getting the buff from smoke grenades. You can be standing on the far edge and basically not obscure your vision at all while still getting all of the enemy can't shoot you. The only thing to remember is that gunners will fire at your previous position once a smoke grenade goes off. They're just going to blast into the air the same way they try to suppress you by blasting at your last point of cover. This can make it seem like the gunners are still shooting you if you don't move. So if gunners are firing into your cloud from a bunch of angles, keep that in mind, drop another one and go fire from that one instead as you move through your smokes. That is something I think people haven't recognized about this yet. The smoke grenades themselves are obviously not amazing, but we're going to be regenning them so we won't have to pick them up. And they allow us to do something in this build that nothing else in the game does right now, which is pretend to be invisible for a long duration while fighting shooters. And that's what you need this for, because you're going to be standing at the back and you want options besides popping Infiltrate. You only want to use Infiltrate once, and then you want it on hand, on tap, in case you run into a melee problem that you need to get away from, or a melee problem that has harmed you too much and you need to regen toughness from. Remember, that regenerates your full toughness. So intelligent use of Infiltrate and smoke grenades are actually what allow you to play like old veteran, standing out in the open, shooting all the shooters without really paying much attention to your health bar. The only thing you need to worry about is people rushing you in melee. For that reason, and for the reason of specific enemies the Vraks is bad against, like muties, crushers, etc., I have chosen a melee weapon that can deal with those. Now, I also want a melee weapon that feels good for fighting into hordes, because sometimes you have to do that, especially since you can't be shooting into hordes with this weapon. Now, for my part, I am going to be taking the Mark IV Assault Chain Axe as my comfort pick on this build for a melee weapon. It also serves one other key function. It can kill crushers, and it can kill maulers, and it can kill ragers if you know what you're doing. All of those targets tend to be a bit difficult for the Vraks. Mark II muties also are another one. I will say this thing can easily tap trappers and flamers if you can click the head, so no big deal there. Dogs die quickly to it as well, but for whatever reason, muties just take like a million shots. I don't know if I'm just bad at hitting their heads or what. But if you are looking to not use a Mark IV Chain Axe because you don't find it to be your comfort pick, I'm actually going to recommend what is in the build online, which is a shovel. Specifically, I am using the Mark III Sapper Shovel with Decimator and Uncanny Strike. I am still working on some data on the shovels, but a buddy of mine tested at least one of these with Decimator versus not with Decimator, with Thrust instead, and found that we went from a fairly long time to kill on 100 horde enemies to a acceptable one on this kind of veteran build of around 54 seconds. So the thing of it is, this is a light spam weapon for horde clear. It does fine, but Decimator gives you extra power, which makes it a lot safer in a horde compared to the alternative. If you prefer running the Chain Axe as I do, you're going to want Headtaker and Bloodletter since you have no rending on this build, so you're not going to want Thunderous. Now, I do owe my friends a thank you for turning me on to this build, because I had been wondering what would make Marksman's Focus any good, and in a little bit of synchronicity, a couple of people had discovered it at the same time and told me about it, and I have been really enjoying running it. I want to reiterate, this build is not fantastic. It's not like God's gift to meta builds, but it's certainly playable and it lets you get that veteran experience again. There's still something wrong with Marksman's Focus, and I think it actually comes down to not the fact that you lose stacks when moving, but how quickly you lose stacks when moving. There's not enough of a grace period when you start moving, and there's not in fact, there's no grace period, if I recall correctly. There probably should be some sort of grace period that allows you to move a little bit, and they should probably fall off a bit more slowly so that it's easier to maintain stacks. They're not hard to build, and since you can just stand still anytime you want with Marksman's Focus using this build, it plays the way you would want to play this kind of thing, so that's great. I just think Marksman's Focus is sadly a bit disjointed from Executioner's stance. They don't actually play very well together at all, and then likewise, I find that Marksman Focus really needs a Camo Expert in order to be able to generate some passive stacks and always have a few on hand after stopping for a few seconds. So I would really advise that you take that in this build, and you leverage the fact that standing still generates passive stacks. I think if I was going to change marksman focus, I would probably stick camo expert into it base, increase the duration of stacks when moving so they don't fall off immediately, some sort of grace period, and lengthen the amount of time that they take to fall off for each stack. That would make the marksman focus section feel a lot better. All right, well, thanks everybody so much for visiting. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of a build that uses some stuff I haven't been able to use before. It's also a little teaser of some of the work that I'm doing on shovels. I'm going to get there soon. I do have a video in the works on comparing the two chain axes, since that is my favorite hobby, but I do want to actually cover the new weapons beyond that. It just takes a lot of time and I only have so much of it. I'm also sick, so I have been delayed. So if you're wondering why my voice sounds like this, that is why. All right, with that, I will simply say have a lovely evening. Goodbye.